What's up, Culture Crew? I'm Ash.
And I'm T. And if you're looking for curated conversations that connect you to the culture,
Keep listening.
all right. Welcome back to those of you guys who have been with us before. And if you're brand new, welcome to the very
What's
first
good?
time. Welcome to the party. We're here. So before we jump in, of course, Ash, we have to have
Tea
tea
time. Nah, nah.
time. All right, and today's tea time topic is it's homecoming season.
Hey, ta-da, ta-da.
It's
No music is
homecoming.
playing, but it's in my
Right,
head.
but right there. Yes, I'm coming home. All right, so it's homecoming season. Ashley, how do you feel? What's going on?
I feel incredible because I went to the best HBCU in the nation
Ooh,
with the greatest homecoming on earth, North
ooh.
Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University. Shout out to my Aggies. What's good with it, y'all? We definitely have the best school. I mean, no other homecoming is named GHO. So shout out to us. But really, why we want to talk about homecoming is because we both went to HBCUs, and homecoming season at an HBCU, it hits different.
It really does.
The air's a little bit crisper, you
Really
know.
does.
The
Every single
energy is
time.
good. You go back, you see your family, which is really your friends, because your friends
Yeah.
become your family. And during school, the vibes are there. Shout out to Blue and Gold Marching Machine, which is the band at A&T, because y'all, the level of respect I have for your commitment is through the roof. Okay, I was always a band fan girly, and just that energy, the energy at homecoming, 10 out of 10.
It's unmatched, honestly. And I'm gonna let you finish, but Bowie State University,
We knew
all
it was
right,
coming.
our homecoming. But I did attend the illustrious Bowie State University as well for my bachelor's and my master's. Love my HBCU so much I had to go graduate twice. That's what I
Love it
be
down.
saying. But you're absolutely right. Like HBCU homecomings are just different. Like there's just something about it. And of course, we gotta
Mm-hmm.
shout out the Symphony of Soul, SOS, the
Shout
band.
out to y'all.
Y'all be coming through every single time. I think that the band was the first thing I heard on campus. Like
Mm.
I heard Bowie State before I saw Bowie State. Like
You feel me?
it
Yeah, I
was
know what you
like
mean.
that. You know what I'm saying? I had never even heard of Bowie. Honestly, it was
Mm.
one of those schools I applied to. It was about 2 hours away from home, like, close enough that I could get home if I needed to, but far enough
Mm-hmm.
away that my mama wasn't just gonna be doing no pop-ups, you know what
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying? But honestly, going to Bowie State absolutely changed my life.
It will change your whole being. We say a couple things at A&T. One of those is Aggie born, Aggie bred. When I die, I'll be Aggie dead.
I'm
So
crying.
it's deep. It's deep within your bones. And we also
Aggie
say
dead is
Aggie
wild.
dead. It's crazy. It's unhinged, but we a
Wild.
little unhinged, so it's fine. We also always say we didn't choose A&T. A&T chose us.
Oh, I love
And
that though.
I 10 out of 10 feel like A&T chose me. I knew
Mhm.
I wanted to go to HBCU because something about that energy was just like I needed that for
Yeah.
my own personal identity, which we'll get into a little bit later. Um, but I went to a football game. The day I went to the football game, that's when I
That's
decided,
when
when
you
I
knew.
saw the band and I saw the students interacting, I was like, oh yeah,
This
this
me.
is the place for me.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm home.
yeah, like, and that's how it feels when you step on campus. Even when I go now for homecoming or
Mhm.
whatever, I'm like, I'm home for real. Like,
Yeah.
these are my people. This is my place.
I
So,
love that though. I absolutely love that. And in the spirit of homecoming season, I do just want to give like a little bit of reverence to the HBCUs
mm,
in Maryland this year because we did have some tragic events take place at Morgan State University and Bowie State University during homecoming season. I do believe that everybody is okay now, but I
mm,
do want to just highlight it a little bit because it does something to you when you
mm,
feel so deeply connected to your
yeah,
school and that
yeah,
community, and a tragedy like that happens. It feels like a family tragedy, like something happened to a place that you feel is sacred, and it's
mm-hmm,
scary. So I just wanted to highlight that and make sure that everybody knows that you guys are always, of course, in our thoughts, in our prayers, and that we still love y'all down. Morgan
Yeah,
State, Bowie State, like,
we got love for
see
you.
you pride everywhere. Okay. So, Ashley, I think this tea time kind of goes perfectly into what we're going to be talking about today. Anyway, so today's episode is going to be about exploring your cultural identity in and out of the
Am I
classroom.
gonna feel triggered in this conversation?
Probably. I think all of our conversations are a little triggering, which is what makes them so good, right? Like, are you really talking if you're not just a little triggered, Just a
That's
little
facts. Is
bit.
it really
So,
getting deep? So,
yeah, exactly. So, where do you want to start?
well, I think that talking about HBCUs and why,
Mhm.
um, if you happen to be a teacher watching this, or even a student that's thinking about going to an HBCU, or a person struggling with their cultural identity, I relate to you.
Mhm.
And choosing A&T was not just about the band and the music, but it was about self discovery.
Mhm.
And so I kind of want to start it off with, how do you feel like your upbringing
Mm.
impacts your cultural identity and your
Mm.
decisions?
You want to talk about triggered? Okay. Um,
I know that's kind of an intense question.
but I definitely think that it shapes you.
Hmm.
Right. And I think that one of the things I had to learn was how
Hmm.
differently people's upbringings really impact who you are
Yeah.
because it determines your normal. That's what I've learned. It determines your normal. So it's
Hmm.
going to impact you differently. Things that seem okay to some
Yeah.
people are outlandish to other people. They're like, "What is going on? What is happening?" And everybody else is chilling. Like,
Right.
I was in a couple of those positions at Bowie. Like, so we all
We
just
just, oh, okay.
okay.
Awkward.
Anybody else tripping? So I'm not going to trip, but on the inside,
Right.
I'm
Mm.
tripping, right? So I will say that, and if you guys have seen any of our uh TikTok reels or anything like that, you know that I grew up in a small town. Shout out to Salisbury, Maryland.
Shout
Okay,
out to my
small
small town
town.
folks.
Yeah. But when I went to Bowie State, it really was a culture shock. And people
Mm.
are always surprised when I say that because obviously I'm black and I went to a historically black college, but the culture shock was real. I
Yeah,
I was so amazed at the different kinds of Black people that I met.
that's what I want to get into. Yeah.
The what like from city to country to there were so many people. I
To
think
your
the biggest
skaters, to your
like
artsy people.
any kind of stereotype or subgroup that you can think
Mhm.
of people in general
Mhm.
were at my HBCU in black,
Facts.
skater
Facts.
in black. You know what I'm saying? Like
Facts.
literally, it was like, wow, I didn't even know black people did these things, let
Yeah.
alone loved and mastered them and did them
Yeah.
skillfully. Like
Mhm.
it was amazing. What about you, Ash? What do you think about your upbringing and then choosing A&T?
Well, if you did not watch our previous episode, go watch it. But I talked a little bit about how I grew up being the only.
Hmm.
Um, and there were 155 people in my graduating class in high school,
Wow.
which is fairly small.
Yeah, that's
So
really small.
pretty much everybody knew everybody. So not only did I grow up in a predominantly white area, it also happened to be a wealthy area.
Mm,
So when Tiana mentions like normals were different, I didn't realize till I came to school that things that were my normal were not everybody's normal, right?
right.
There are certain things that I didn't realize. One, I don't know if I realized how fortunate I was compared to some people, because
Mm,
I was in this bubble and everybody kind of had money, if you
right.
will. So there were things that we did that I just felt like that's what everybody does, right? And then I came to
Mhm.
college, and within the first 2 weeks, my friends were like, "What? You do what? You say what?" And it was a
Yeah,
culture shock. Now, when people say culture shock, sometimes they have a negative connotation of that word. But
yeah.
I want to talk about how a culture shock can be a positive
Mhm.
experience. And for me, a lot of middle school and even high school, I struggled with being okay with my skin, with the
Mhm.
texture of my hair, with my
Mhm.
figure, right? I always wanted to look and feel different. I wanted to look like my counterparts, which were
Yeah.
white women, and I'm never going to look like a white woman. And so when I came to my HBCU, I found, wait a second, hold on, everyone looks like me. And
Yeah.
also, these features that I did not like about myself are being celebrated. I was
Yes.
like, hold on, hold on. I started smelling
Yes.
myself. I was like, I'm cute for real. Like, I'm kind of cool for real. Like, my voice is this and it's that. And they
Yeah.
rock with it. Right.
Yeah.
And so it was a positive experience that I hadn't had before. And so I always say that I'm literally in debt to my
Mhm.
HBCU. Well, we got some debt too, but I don't know who
Crying.
Joe think is paying that. But I'm talking about emotionally, I am in debt because they really developed me as a person. That is when
Absolutely.
I became Ashley. Like that
Mm.
is when I understood who I was, who I want to be. And I had just so many people that were there to encourage me to be authentically me
Yeah.
along the way. And I think that that experience is so unique. So if you can go to an HBCU, go to one because after you graduate, the world isn't like that. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Ashley, first of all, we're so glad you became Ashley because we love Ashley. Okay. So
Child, I
so
was the
glad you
other person
became
before that.
Ashley. Okay. But I completely agree. And I think, yeah, when I say culture shock, I mean it in the best way possible. I think, and I remember this so clearly. And the funniest part is one of the brothers will probably be watching this episode. But I was a freshman. It was probably my second week on campus, and we were doing some programming in the new student center,
Mhm.
and I had a, well, it used to be the Wiseman Center. Shout out to my OG, at Bowie. But they said, do you know who you are? Like brother and Kente head to toe, like, what, huh? He said, where are you from? I said, Salisbury. He said, Africa. And changed my life. Like when I say
Yeah,
I
like my
walked,
world would have been
I say when I
shooken.
walked into that program and my life was changed, like discovered things that I had never even thought about before. Like, and it's so funny because yes, I was very much a stereotypical, went away to a black college, came back in a dashiki, not eating pork with an
Oh my
ankh
god, the dashiki, I
tattoo.
totally had a phase
Okay.
with one of
And
those.
okay, but it's because you go into this season of like my people.
I big
Like,
chopped.
all of that, literally. You know what I mean? Like at first it was, well, I just can't afford to get a perm no more. And then it was, wow, my natural hair. Let me cut out all the perm, went
Yeah.
natural. And I got 4C kinky
Ooh,
hair.
me too.
Okay. So and then even that within the natural hair movement, learning to love that my hair wasn't as defined, and then
Yeah.
eventually locking it up, cutting my locks off and doing it again. Like it just, like you said, it gives you this identity that you just did not have before. And I always say that too. I became Tiana at Bowie. So thank you, Bowie State.
So shout out to the HBCUs
Yeah.
that do that for people because y'all for sure did it for me and I'm sure you're doing it for countless other students. You brought up a point that I kind of want to talk about a little bit.
Yeah.
You said that someone asked you, a black person, where are you from?
Mhm.
And I have a bad association of that
Mm.
question because I literally remember I was in 3rd grade and we were sitting in a circle and the teacher was like, everybody share where their parents are from and who you are. And my friends are going, I'm Irish, I'm
Mm.
Italian, I'm this, I'm that. And when
Mm.
it got to me, not only did I feel so embarrassed, but I
Mhm.
felt so isolated. Like,
Mhm.
why didn't my teacher think of the fact that I wouldn't have an answer to that question?
Right.
Where am I from? Okay, well, yes, Africa, originally, but slavery. So I don't know what part and this, that, and the third. And I can't get specific. Like
Yeah.
my friends in the 3rd grade were like, I'm 30% Irish and I'm 50% this and I'm
Yeah.
da 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 da. And I'm sitting there like, I'm black.
Yeah.
Like, and everybody's just looking at me. And in the 3rd grade, like I'm remembering this now as an adult.
Yeah.
like how that made me feel. And so if you're a teacher watching this, just think about that question
Yeah,
sometimes before you ask it, because you don't know how that's going to make that student feel, and that kind of
absolutely.
leads us into that cultural identity piece.
Yeah, and I think when we're talking about it inside of the classroom, that's super relevant. You
Hmm.
know, we have plenty of students who do have strong ties with their family history and things like that, and we have students who don't. And I think that acknowledging it is the biggest thing. And I think sometimes teachers do shy away from
Yeah.
having those conversations because they don't
Hmm.
wanna say the wrong thing, they don't wanna come off as insensitive or ignorant or anything like that, but quite honestly, ignoring it is the worst thing that you could do, because now not only are you not acknowledging it,
Yeah.
now you're forcing that child into isolation. You're
Right.
forcing them to feel like there must be something wrong with me because my teacher hasn't acknowledged that this is even a thing that I might be suffering with. So things like slavery and genocide, and there are just so many things throughout history that could make it more difficult for students
Hmm.
to have a strong tie to their cultural identity as far as what we're traditionally talking about.
Right. Yes, in the
Inside of
traditional
school,
sense.
yeah, in the traditional sense, and that's definitely something to note as well, because I think I even struggled a little bit
Hmm.
because at first I was very much like, "Okay, African," like, I was born in the diaspora, but ultimately, I'm African, people my people
Hmm.
are African, and then I started to think about the fact that Black America does have a culture.
And it's rich.
And it's so deep and it's so rich and
Hmm.
there's so much in it that I started to be okay
Hmm.
identifying as Black American. Like, I didn't need to go and try to find the history that was kind of taken from us because I
Yeah.
felt like we were creating our own history
Yeah.
in that moment still. Like, I thought about doing the what is it called? The ancestry or 23 and Me and all that stuff. But then I was
Yeah.
like, and then I ended up writing it in a poem. I was like, I'm not paying you $100 to tell me where you stole me from.
Oh, we're gonna need to hit that poem because
Like, let's be for real for just a second. So, but I think embracing, and that's what we're talking about. When we say the culture,
yeah.
that's the culture we're talking about. You know what I'm saying? So,
And acknowledging that like your students of color in your classrooms have these unique cultural practices
mhm,
at their house. And I think that it's important for all of us, not just teachers, everyone, to be aware of different cultural practices. Me and Tiana were having this conversation not long ago. Within the Black community, your elders, you refer to them as Mr. and Miss,
mhm.
right? That's just what we do in the Black community. That's what my mama told me to do. Even still, as an adult, I call my mom's friends Mr. or Miss such and
To
such.
this
I would
day.
not dare. I would not
Ooh,
dare just say their first name. Are you
ooh,
crazy?
ooh.
We
Like we.
don't, we don't, we don't do that. And I had a couple instances where that's not the norm in other people's cultures. And I had to like check myself, like, okay, where am I right now? For example, I had this job in high school. I loved that job. It was at the ice cream store, Swickley Confectionery. If you ever been there, I loved my boss. He was the greatest guy ever. My boss's name was Chris. I'll never forget. Chris said, I called him Mr. Chris because that's what my mom told me to do. And he was like, no, just call me Chris. And I went home and I'm like, my mama gonna trip out when she hears it. She was like, you need to call that man Mr. Chris. I said, Mom, he told me to call him Chris. Okay. Now, Chris was a white guy, right? And so he's probably not thinking about anything like that. And I had to realize, like, this is a huge difference
Mhm.
between, because had any of my friends come up to my mama and call her Quita, oh, it would have been a wrap.
I can't even imagine. Like,
Yeah.
literally, I'm trying to imagine it and I cannot. So,
No, like it's over for it. And that can
yeah.
apply in the workplace. So when we think about
Mhm.
how our students advance like through high school and, postgraduate experiences, like it's important for us to acknowledge those differences and teach them how to adjust them depending on their setting, because even when you come
Absolutely.
into a job, a corporate job, and you might be the youngest person in the room, sometimes your natural reaction as a black person might be to say Mr. or Miss such and such to your boss.
Mhm.
But that's not what we do. We're not doing that.
That's not the corporate culture.
That's not the corporate culture.
Right. Yeah. But Ashley, I can't even imagine. Like, I literally cringe just thinking about my friends trying to call my mother by her first name. Like,
Like, are you joking me right now?
I
The
could literally,
disrespect.
like, I could literally never. But I
Yeah.
think it makes me think about how so many things can be misconstrued.
Yeah.
Right. So, like, if somebody from outside of our culture called one of our mothers by their first name, they might not be trying to be disrespectful, but that's a norm
Yeah,
to
but they don't
them.
know.
Right. So then that makes me think about different things with kids inside of the classroom. Like,
Yeah.
my biggest one was volume. Okay.
Mm.
My kids were loud.
Yeah.
They
Mine too.
loud. They laugh loud.
It's loud,
Even when we debating, they're loud. Like, they're just loud.
but
And
I'm
I
loud.
remember, right, exactly. But I remember there was an issue once where I had a white supervisor, and she was like, "Wow, it's too much noise for this to be like a productive learning environment." And I was like, "They're not screaming at each other. They're just loud. Like, the laughing that you hear is
Mhm.
going to be loud." Like, I remember my husband came into my aunt's house one holiday, and he was like,
Mm.
"Yeah, I heard your mom and your aunts before I saw them." And I'm like, "Yeah, like,
Yes.
the laughter, the passion
Mhm.
is going to be present." And I feel like it definitely can be something that's different culturally.
Mhm.
Like, it literally changes.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes our kids are persecuted for things that are just naturally a part of who they are.
Yo, I just thought about this moment with my librarian in high school.
Not your librarian.
Bro, let me tell you. So, me and all of my friends were kikiing in the library. Not like
As you
super
do.
loud, but
Right. A little key. A little key.
we were juniors in high school. Like, what else are we going to do? Kiki at
Right.
the tables. He comes over. He points at me. He goes, Ashley. I'm sitting at a table with 6 other people that are talking. He points at me, goes, Ashley, and goes, turn your volume down.
Mm.
And I was like,
Mm.
something about that didn't feel right.
Yeah, that ain't sit right in my spirit just now.
Because everybody was talking.
Because what
So
you trying
why
to
did you
say?
and why did you point at me? Let's start.
Mhm.
Why are you pointing? Let's start there. And also, if you want us to be quiet because we're in the library, I understand that. We need to tell our whole table to be quiet. Don't
Right.
come over to me specifically and tell me to be quiet as if I'm having a conversation with myself.
Right.
I'm not. There's 6 girls at a table laughing. Well, what do you think is going to happen? But it was almost like he assumed that I had to be the culprit.
Yes. Absolutely. Because little black girls are louder. That's part of it, right? Little black girls are louder. They have a little attitude,
And
right?
yes, and that is
Mhm.
affecting us every day, wherever we go, whether it's in school or a store or at work. I mean, that's why, speaking of cultural identity, that's why code switching came about.
Yeah.
Basically, the need to shrink your cultural identity to make other
Mhm.
people comfortable.
Absolutely. And I think it's funny because we've talked about it at length and where my voice literally changes.
Voice is completely
I
different.
know we Ashley and I think we told you guys Ashley and I work together, but like we've been in meetings and she's just like, who is talking right now?
Yeah, like
Because
why is
that
she
is
talking like
not
that?
your voice. Like, and even to the point where we have become conscious of it, and I'll try to not do it, but it's become so ingrained in
Yeah,
like my work voice or my work
yeah.
persona that I literally can't stop it from happening.
No.
I remember when I first started like interviewing and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
like I had older women in my family tell me like you need to straighten your hair. Like
Yeah.
you need to straighten it. It has to be, what did she say? She was literally like, if your hair is relaxed, they'll relax. Like she literally said that to me. And like she was so serious.
So
But
serious. They don't mean any harm by it.
absolutely. They're trying to give you the game. They're like,
Yeah.
no, like these people are not going to accept you in your authentic state. And I
Yeah.
think right now, breaking those generational curses
Yeah.
is so hard because you're literally going against what society has told you. Like,
Yeah.
society has quite literally told us all of our life that you cannot show up as you are and
Yeah.
be accepted. And
How do you get
now
over that?
we're trying to forcibly show up as we are
Yeah.
to break that. Like, okay, no, I'm not going to put my hair up in a bun, a tight, my locks up in a tight bun for this. I'm just gonna wear them down. And you're gonna see my roots and they might be a little nappy because that's what happens when you
Right.
lock your hair. Like, I'd have to have pep talks with myself about this. Like,
Mhm.
no, it's okay. You can
Yeah.
turn your camera on. It's okay. Like, they just gonna have to get the real you today,
Yeah.
you
I feel
know?
like I've mastered the hair thing. Like now I'm like, okay,
Mhm.
I don't care. I remember my mom used to be like, "Are you sure you want to do this?" Um, but I haven't mastered not code switching.
Mm.
Like even though I'm cognizant of it, I remember Tiana was telling me one time that, or actually she's told me several times that when we're in certain settings, I put a question at the end of everything that I'm saying, and I kind of go up high pitched, and I do that because I want to feel softer. Like I want you to
Mhm.
think that I'm trying to communicate this in a soft way, even though
Right.
in reality I want to just say it how I want to say it. But I know that you might say I'm aggressive or it sounded mean or it was just a little bit harsh. And those are things I've actually experienced real time. Like I've had a
Yeah.
boss tell me that I was too harsh. And so
Mhm.
now I overcompensate and I go, like, let's just say I'm asking, can we do this in a meeting? I'll be like, can we do this in a meeting? Like,
Question mark, question
why?
mark.
Why question mark? Even though really what I want to say, this is what we need to do because of
Yeah,
X, Y, and Z.
absolutely.
Right. But that it's hard to fight against that
It
generational
is.
curse of like, this is who I am, but you don't really want me to be who I am for real, for real.
Right, but you don't want to it's almost like you also don't wanna represent Black women badly.
The pressure.
And I don't
The
think other
pressure.
people from other cultures have that same experience. Like,
They
you
don't, I
get
don't
to
think.
just show up and be yourself, and you're only representing yourself. But
Hmm.
I know that I'm one of the only young Black women that you're going to be working with. So I know that the way that I show up is how you are going to judge
Right.
all of
Right.
the other young Black women that you come in contact with by my measuring stick. So I got to show up being the representative for my race and gender and age.
How
And that's
exhausting.
a lot of pressure. Like, it's a lot of pressure. Like, yeah, you got to be on your P's and Q's because you don't want to mess it up for the next Black
For,
girl who's trying to be in your shoes.
yeah. Or they'll lump you together. Like,
Right.
well, Ashley's this way, so Tiana must be this way. Although we're completely different people.
We are very different. You know,
Hmm.
I don't know. I think the code switching really gets to me too sometimes. Like,
It's exhausting.
with me, it's always in written communication more so
Oh, that one too.
because I'm a writer, and I think what is it? Just is my worst enemy. I
Mm,
just wanted to check in. I just needed to know if you I just wanted to I just and every time, like, I literally saw a TikTok that was talking about it, and I went back and looked at some of my messages,
yeah.
and I was like, I sound like such a punk. Like, I sound
Yeah.
like such
Like,
a
why do I sound like
punk.
that? Yeah.
That's not how I talk. Like, I need something. I just wanna tell you, "Hey, I need this by this day. Thank you." But what I feel like I have to do is, "Hey, good morning.
Good
I
morning.
hope
Smiley
your weekend
face.
was well!" Exclamation point, exclamation point. Do you think that you could, if you have a moment, at some point, I just wanted to and it's like,
If not, it's okay.
right, also, and it's like you're literally making it not a priority for them, because
Mhm.
if somebody like, messaged me and they're like, "Hey, I need this
Right.
by this time."
Right.
Okay, bet that's what you need. But if somebody's like, "Oh, if at your earliest convenience when you," and that's not what I want to portray anymore. Like,
Right. Same.
I think we took that Black Leadership Essentials course. And if you are listening to this, McKinsey Academy has
Mhm.
an amazing Black Leadership's Essential course that I
Yeah.
recommend to everyone. It was
Check it out for
amazing,
sure.
absolutely. But the girl who was talking about how if you asked her coworkers and her friends to describe her, they would describe her the same way, like with the
Wow.
same words. They show up differently, obviously, in the workplace, but
Wow.
she is herself. And I was like, that is what I'm aspiring to, because
That's not the case for me.
I don't even know what our coworkers would say. Like, I don't even know how you would describe me, but I know it wouldn't be the same way that my
It
friends
wouldn't
would
be, yeah, it
describe
wouldn't be the
me.
same way my friends describe me. That's for a fact.
Exactly. So it's like just that identity, whether it's inside of the classroom, at work, in life, and not shrinking
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah. I
And
think
I
we
think
actually
that's
have two
it.
different identities.
Yeah,
Yeah.
literally. Literally. Work
We have our
Tiana.
one that we'd like to be, and then we have our work,
Yeah.
Ashley. Like, you would not, like, if I feel like that's such a good question. I'm
Yeah.
interested to see what y'all would say in the comments. Like,
Yeah.
if your friends and your colleagues were to describe you, would they describe you as the same person, or would it sound like two totally
Hmm.
different people?
If
For
they got
me,
if they got together and started talking, would we
they
think they were talking
would be
about two different
confused
people? I'm sorry. You do you know Ashley? Do you know who we're
because that's not
talking
like what.
about?
Mm, that's a good question.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a good one. But I think that just on the basis of cultural identity, even as we still struggle with it on the education side, it's so
Yeah.
important to keep it in mind for our students because they're
Yeah.
struggling with it. All
Ooh.
parts of their identity, every single part of it. And you, as their teacher, your impact is helping shape who they become.
And how comfortable they feel.
Absolutely.
So that's it for today, y'all. We want
Yeah,
you to follow us on socials at Get Cultured Edu. Everywhere you are, that's where we are.
I know
Instagram,
that's right.
TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, wherever you want to be. And thank you for tuning in.
All right. And we'll see you guys next time.
Peace out.
Bye.